Hello and welcome to Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora, and on this week's episode, I will be speaking all about the flying rainbow lasagna and how that relates to genetic restructuring, and also speaking about technology and artifice and how that relates to your DNA and one's genetic structure. So, beginning with this basic idea of the flying rainbow lasagna. I speak about it all the time. If you were in my studio, I would just show you an example of the sculptural form of it. What you need to know is that it is a composite image. When you look at a picture or a sculpture of this form, it is actually the end result of an oscillating movement of one little particle. And that little particle that is jumping up and down or back and forth is the singularity, or the source and the destination of consciousness. So when I define the singularity, I am using the term that is most similar to how science describes the infinite stretching of the fabric of space-time and consciousness at the center of a black hole. So this is Einsteinian concept here, that space-time, and Einstein didn't recognize consciousness, is a fabric that is stretchy like rubber, and that you can place an infinitely heavy object on top of this infinitely stretchy fabric of space-time, and that it would create a dent, and the dent would just keep on sinking down and going infinitely, and it would make a kind of like a vortex shape. And that vortex shape is one of the basic shapes of energy as it flows in the cosmos. And the energy that is flowing is not only space and time, and not just the energy that humans are most familiar with, which is like electrons flowing in a wire. This is the energy of time and consciousness. So time is not just something that exists independent of consciousness or the awareness that creates the experience of time. And when I'm speaking about all of this, I use a lot of visual imagery. So let's imagine that your life, the musical score of your life, the potential possibilities of the timelines that make up who and what you are, is shaped a lot like an old-fashioned analog record, like what you would put on the record player and play with a needle. And your awareness is analogous to the needle that goes on the record. So you have this record that is the potential of stored information. And in order to actually experience the notes of the music that are stored on the record, we require the needle of awareness. So your life is shaped like a vortex. It's shaped like a bundle of timelines. And out at the periphery of that bundle, you have the distorted timelines, the things that are very likely to happen, but which do not reflect who and what you really are, your basic core personality and your core values. And in those timelines, many of them, you die instantaneously upon birth. You die of simple pathogenic diseases. A lot of it has to do with the very steep learning curve that we must undergo just in order to inhabit a physical structure when you get here. When you first get here into a body and you're born, you have to learn how to stay alive. And when I say steep learning curve, I really mean that each one of us dies many, many times just trying to get the hang of being in the body. And in much the same way of the what is expressed in the comedic, brilliant, philosophical movie Groundhog's Day, we are undergoing constantly a process of refinement throughout these timelines in this bundle of possibilities in our life. So this is not just undergoing refinement between lifetimes, the idea of reincarnation. You know that if you act well and learn your life lessons, that as you go from lifetime to lifetime, your situation will improve. Not just between lifetimes, but within your own individual incarnation. Each one of us is, let's say you die by hitting the membrane of death, you are unmade, and you are reinserted over and over and over. These are the endless iterations of your life and your existence. And I use the analogy of a choose-your-own-adventure novel, where, I don't know if you ever read these as like a young person If you choose to do this, turn to page 3. If you choose to do this, turn to page 23. That it is one narrative structure in the book. The book is not rewritten every time you read it. However, by making different choices, you experience different sets of events. And this is what we are experiencing in the record of our lives. The book is already written. The record is already recorded. However, by changing the different choices that you make, the different possible iterations or combinations of thoughts and beliefs and desires and actions, by changing those different combinations, you get to have different experiences. And those different experiences cause the needle of your awareness to focus from the periphery, out on the edges of the flat disc, inward towards the center axis where the record actually goes on the spindle of the record player. That place is like the wormhole that is the exit of reality. So I know I mixed a lot of metaphors here. I've got a flat plane of the record, but I also told you about stretching the fabric of space-time with an infinitely heavy bowling ball like Einstein, and that makes a pointy vortex shape. So if we were looking at the vortex shape from the top down, we would see it as a disc. And when we look at it in cross-section from the side, we see that it is shaped more like a curvilinear V, all right? And at the point, the vertex of that V, that is where the fabric of space-time and consciousness has been stretched to the point of infinity, an infinite amount of stretching. It keeps on stretching and it never, ever, ever stops. That is the singularity. That point of consciousness and total presence, it's the total presence of all energy, all matter, all possibilities, all probabilities, everything is there. It's the 0th dimension. It's infinity. That singularity it's at the center of each one of the energy centers on your body. These energy centers are also called chakras. This means spinning wheel. However, there's so much misinformation that is going on right now, and people associate negatively now with the word chakra. Chakra is not just a glowing ball of colored light on your body. It actually has a shape and a harmonic proportion to it. You are calibrated. So most people simplify in their drawings. I am very specific in my drawings. You can check them all out if you go to flyingrainbowlasagna.com and look at the art section of what is there. You can also check out my online class, Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, where the very first lesson is all about the harmonic proportions of your chakras and the way that your energetic anatomy is shaped. And again, this is not meant to be disempowering. This is not meant to give you a thought structure like a jail cell that you then cannot escape from. No, no, no. Ha, ha, ha. I laugh and clutch my pearls. No, it is the opposite. It is meant to be empowering information, like learning about your reproductive system and your circulatory system and your digestive system. These are all very good things to learn about, because you can learn what food serves your body best, how to get pregnant or not get pregnant when you want to, how to, build more muscles or become a leaner person. Any of those things, you're empowered when you learn about your anatomy. So you are empowered when I give you this information about the energy centers or chakras on your body, that you have 7 major energy centers within what we would call the human octave, even though octave refers to 8. But if we include the culmination of all of those 7 individual colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, 7 colors, all add up to white light. And that white light, this is the color recipe. We are derived from the sun, which is our nearest star and is named Sol. Each star has its own individual color recipe. That means it has a certain amount of yellow or green or red in the light that it emits. And so our particular star, the light, tends to be a little bit yellow-green. And we as humans from this particular star have our own unique color recipe that makes up our light body. So again, lots of New Age folks, they talk about your light body. This is a very real aspect of your being, not just like some loosey-goosey, airy-fairy thing that is an ideal. It's a very real thing, and it's not merely made out of physical light photons, like the light that we perceive with our physical eyeballs that you can touch with your physical finger. It is also made up of consciousnesses and possibilities and imagination and feeling. This is the non-physical realm, okay? So there's the physical aspect of light, photons that we can see being emitted from a star. There is also the non-physical aspect of light, which would be, we could call it containing information. And now when you look at the star that is emitting this beautiful light that is falling on us all day long, please understand that it is information. So on the very, like the grossest level, the most physical level, light is bouncing off of an object. It's bouncing off of a blade of grass. I'm looking at it right now, and it's reaching my eyeball and stimulating my retina, and I am able to receive information that says a blade of grass is over there. However, it's so much more than that. That is what science's very cardboard, flat, cut and dried explanation is, because science is not recognizing consciousness that is involved here, or time. What we're really looking at is the emanation of a timeline, a possibility and a probability, where that ray of light, that photon, is a possible, it's a description of a possible event or occurrence in the world, and that I am a perceiver / experiencer participating in that event or occurrence that is in the world. It's not just light bouncing off of an object and reaching my eye. It is a feeler. That photons are feelers, sensory apparatus or apparatuses sent out by the star system in order to sense what is out here. And if I or some other physical object did not interact with that photon, it would continue endlessly on its journey. If it is not interacted with, it would just keep on going, going, and going, and going, and going, and never stop. That's endless, infinite journey. And the star that emitted it would feel, oh, that's a photon that is simply going and going and going. It hasn't felt anything yet. And the sun can absolutely sense when a photon that it emitted is interacting with some aspect of the material realm, such as coming to Earth and being either ingested by a chloroplast. This is chlorophyll. This is a cell structure within the plant kingdom that literally traps a photon and transforms it into physical energy. That is like a sugar or a starch or something that the plant can use to fuel its physical metabolism. And of course, humans and other animals also use the plant's chlorophyll to fuel their own metabolism. This is not just some, like I said, cardboard cut and dried, non-conscious event. It's an event of consciousness where the sun is actually aware. It is emitting awareness. The sun is literally emitting consciousness and awareness and possibilities, and it is aware that that piece of itself has now become a part of a plant. And I'm in my beautiful garden right now, surrounded by beautiful plants. And these plants are growing every day based upon the photons that are emitted from the sun. And the sun is literally here in embodied format in my garden, listening to me while I'm speaking about this. So now we have to understand, because science is flat and cardboard and not noticing consciousness, the sun is alive. The sun is aware. The sun is so aware. It is such an enormous, complex processing apparatus, like a computer. Your computer has RAM, random access memory. This is the capacity for it to process information in a moment, as opposed to ROM, which is read-only memory, storing things for a very long time. Our sun and each star is so massive and so enormous and so intelligent. It has processing power that is beyond all earthly computers combined. I mean, it's beyond what you could probably even conceive of as an individual human. The sun and a star and the sun, the stars are all connected on a star system, just the same way that your phone is connected on a cellular network or your computer is connected on the internet. So the sun itself, or a star as an individual, has an enormous amount of processing power. And it also has the capacity to interact with other stars, creating a larger network of consciousness. And it is also not limited in, let's say, locality by the beings that it can interact with. So the stellar network is not just about who's here right now. There are stars that have already been born. They've already come and gone. They've existed. They've died. They've gone supernova. Those stars are still accessible on the stellar network. So because humans think, oh, a thing is dead, we can't talk to it anymore, we can't access it anymore. That is not truthful in terms of time, space, and consciousness. And as you begin to learn more about the flying rainbow lasagna, you begin to also become a multidimensional being that can also access beings who have lived a very long time ago and beings who will live in the far distant future. And the way that this happens is through this folding or stretching of the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. Because if you wanted to simply send a linear message all the way across the vast interstellar distances, billions and billions of miles that are, again, almost inconceivable how very, very far something would have to go. It would take a very long time. If you did it by Morse code, flashing lights, if you did it by laser light, if you put your message in a bottle and sent it off on a rocket ship, it would take a very, very, very long time. So in order to have any kind of meaningful discussion in real time between beings that are at divergent areas of, the galaxy or the cosmos, because galaxies are separated by large distances also, we have to be able to fold the fabric of space, time, and consciousness. So this is like saying, instead of a little ant having to walk all the way across the surface of a leaf, like from the stem or along the middle part of the leaf out the way to the edge, we can fold the leaf. So the little ant only has to go from the stem to the edge and cut out all of that filler, all the middle stuff that takes so very long. So by folding space, time, and consciousness, the stellar network can share information regardless of how, quote-unquote, far apart they are. So now time becomes a moot point. So if a star already has lived, if it lived billions of years ago, you can still talk to it. It can still be on the stellar network. And there are some stars that have not been born yet. They have not yet coalesced into, they are still potential, like they're a nebula of dust and gas. They're not a star yet. But those stars to be are also on the stellar network. So now we are becoming multidimensional perceivers, and we are understanding that this is a lot more than just the moment now that we are in. Although it's ironic because love, unconditional love, and focusing our awareness has everything to do with focusing everything that you have on the moment now, and not dispersing your awareness by also thinking about the past or anticipating about the future. So one of the things that we do in order to prepare ourselves to travel on the stellar network is learn to have coherence. Coherent light, this is like laser light. So you have a light body, and your light body is made of more than just physical photons. It's also made of awareness. It's also made of possibilities and probabilities and timelines. And the what determines what you are experiencing is where the needle of your awareness is focused. And we focus unconditional love. This is when you are literally creating a tone of equal receiving and equal giving. So if you are being given like time at a particular rate, like let's say you're given time at 10 units per unit, then if you're traveling at 10 units per unit, you are loving. If you're traveling at 20 units per unit, you're going too fast. If you're traveling at 5 units per unit, you're going too slow. If you are processing information at the exact right speed so that you are fully submerged within the profound moment of the now, then you are not dispersing your consciousness. And all of the aspects of your body, the waveforms of your body, they start to move in alignment. Like, we could think of them like soldiers all marching together, or we could think of them like chorus girls in a chorus line, all kicking up their legs together, and then they kick up the other leg, then they kick up their right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg. So these are the waveforms of your body You have a light body. It's made of waves. I know this whole question of whether light is a wave or a particle. Let's envision your body, your light body, is made up of these beautiful wave forms. And when the wave forms are in unison, then your body has coherence. And when you have coherence, it means that you stick together as opposed to disperse. And that is essential. We are cultivating this in order to stay together and not be dispersed when we interact on the stellar network. So the stellar network is a network of consciousness and sharing information of very, very, very large, intelligent beings, all right? And we can also participate, even though we might not be quite as grandiose as a whole sun or a whole star. We can also participate as miniature stars. And this is what we practice when we are here in our physical bodies on Earth. We are practicing being divine miniature co-creators. We are learning how to be artists of reality. This is what I'm talking about. The stars and the sun, these are beautiful artists of reality. They're sending out photons. They're sending out possibilities. They're painting with light. They're painting with consciousness. They're giving us, the experiencers here, all of the raw materials that we require in order to have these experiences. So this is the sun is creating the musical score of the cosmos. And we are musicians playing, and we are also audience members listening to the beautiful music. So we become empowered when we learn the musical score. It's not worse to be musically literate. You don't get less creativity because you suddenly know this is an A, this is a D, this is an F sharp. You actually get more creativity because you don't have to guess. You don't have to say, I wonder what the next note is that's coming up. Is it an A? Is it a D? Is it an F sharp? You actually know what it is because you can perceive it. Right now, humans submerged in time do not know what to do or to think or to say or where to go, cannot perceive the future. It's because you're not yet, quote unquote, musically literate. You're guessing, you're stabbing at all the different keys. Maybe this one is right. Maybe this one is right. This is what I mean by exploring all of the iterations on the choose your own adventure novel of your life. If you cannot see the score of the cosmos, of the cosmic symphony, it becomes hard to make good choices that lead towards eternal life and away from death. And the death is ego death. It is death of your temporal self. And then rearrangement, and then trying again. These are the endless iterations. Well, I speak about this on my show almost every week. This was not the intended format for your consciousness. This was not the intended format of your body. We were intended to be seamless conduits, literally miniature co-creator stars on the surface of the planet, connected to the star that emanated us. And we were intended to have an unbroken line of consciousness between the source, remember that infinitely stretchy point of the fabric of space-time and consciousness, where we came from. We're supposed to still be connected to that. Just in the same way that all the stars, even though they might be very far apart in different galaxies, can still talk to one another because they are connected on the stellar network. And the human genetic code about 10 or 15,000 years ago was artificially dismantled, was artificially degraded. And now humans exist in a way that is almost entirely unnaturally cut off from or delayed from interacting with the source or delayed from interacting with the stellar network of consciousness. And this is why everyone has to go through every single iteration in the Choose Your Own Adventure novel and say, is this right? I don't know. Try it out. Is this right? I don't know. Try it out. Trial and error of your own consciousness. That's not how it was intended. It was intended that you could actually use your higher senses, a sensory apparatus that can perceive time, in order to perceive which direction you should go and which thoughts and feelings and actions you should take, because the correct thoughts and feelings and actions would lead to not only continued physical vitality, your body staying alive and healthy, but also continued consciousness. that you would not have to end the continuity of your consciousness. That is something that humans in this time and place just take as a matter of course, that you will die, get a mind wipe, and then go on and be something else. Only lamas, these Tibetan or Far Eastern holy people that have cultivated themselves over many generations, have become able to perceive their transferring of consciousness between many lifetimes and to control it. And this is called continuity of consciousness. It's like being a lucid dreamer. When you have a lucid dream, you go across the membrane of consciousness that separates waking from, dreaminess, or wakefulness from sleepiness. Two different mental states that are happening in the same person. However, when you go across that membrane of consciousness, the memories associated with each state become lost. So when you're asleep at night, you remember the things that you have access to when you are in your dream state. And when you are awake during the day, you have access to the things that you can remember during your awake state. And it requires a special meditation and consciousness training to focus your awareness, so that when you go across that membrane from waking to sleep and sleep to wake, that you don't lose all of your memories. And this is in preparation for the death journey, where you would go across the membrane of consciousness that separates this realm from the next realm, and you would be able to transport your stored memories with you, and that when you entered your next body, you wouldn't have a total mind wipe. That's how it's actually supposed to be, believe it or not, even though many people think there is some form of wisdom at losing your continuity of consciousness when you enter into a new body, because you think, something, leave behind your troubles, like let all the things you did bad, all the things that you are ashamed of, or wish you hadn't done, mistakes that you have made in previous life. You get to have the mind wipe, and then you get to be free in this life. Yes and no, because, burdens do follow you from lifetime to lifetime. And what it really means is that you cannot learn consciously. You cannot consciously bring with you, your suitcase of thoughts and memories and say, these are the things that I need to remember, like how to play the piano and how to, fish and hunt and gather, and also how to, paint a painting that looks like a thing. And those are the things I want to take along with me. People might also not want to take along things like, oh, I remember the time that I killed that person in a war, or I remember the time that, I raped or was raped by someone. Those are things that people wish to have the mind wipe over. Except here's the thing. When you transfer consciousness, you still carry those burdens. So you might be carrying around a debt or, some example, something that happened to you in the past, but simply not have the conscious memory of why you're in that position. So it's like saying you don't actually get to learn. You get to experience all of the consequences of your actions, but without learning. And this is all part of consciousness reduction. It's intentional. It is intentional because if you could actually use your higher faculties and see through time and learn over the course of many lifetimes, you wouldn't have to have so many lifetimes. You would actually do it all in one lifetime. And this is the way it used to be done about 10 or 20,000 years ago, before the degradation of human consciousness, before the creation of the aberration that we know now as death. Before this was created, nobody hit the membrane of death. It's like saying if you have a car or a vehicle and you are in control of both the steering wheel and the brakes of that vehicle, and you can see through the windshield, and you can perceive that there are, there's like a cliff to the left and a cliff to the right, and you're driving on a narrow bridge. You need not drive off the cliff at any time. It's only if you cannot perceive. Maybe the windscreen is blocked, or maybe you can see, but you can't actually touch the steering wheel. Or maybe you can touch the steering wheel and you can see, but you totally can't hit the brakes. The brakes are totally not working. This is about controlling your trajectory of consciousness as you go through time. Can you see through time? Can you perceive the possibilities ahead of you? Okay, if you can perceive the possibilities ahead of you, can you actually use your steering wheel? Can you actually control events? If you can control events, can you actually use the brakes? Can you redirect your consciousness to be on one timeline or a different timeline, or going towards what you wish and away from what you do not wish. So mostly in this time and place, people would consider those qualities to be superhuman or magical. And I'm telling you that those are not, impossible qualities. This is how people describe superhuman and magical. These are very possible qualities. These are your birthright. This is how each one of us was intended to live as a quote-unquote superhuman being, a full-spectrum human, a superhuman being with access to all of your higher faculties, unconditional love, and everything that rests upon that in terms of the structure of your energy centers. It's like a pyramid that has a capstone that rests on the foundation. Well, unconditional love is like the foundation of your pyramid, of your energy body, and then these higher faculties rest upon them. So again, not meant to be disempowering information. This is meant to be empowering information so that you can actually cultivate these higher faculties and control your trajectory through time. Because if each one of us could do that, each one of us could avoid death. Each one of us could, first of all, avoid suffering and disease. We would all use our quote-unquote steering wheels to go towards the timelines where we experience health and vitality. And this means not only like for your personal body, it means also world events. Because you can eat all of the salad and kale and okra in the world, but if somebody drops a big giant bomb on your house, then your body will die. So maintaining physical vitality is about eating the right things and doing the right exercise, and it's also about avoiding violence and placing your consciousness on the correct timelines. So let's speak about, right now, at many other times in life, there is the possibility for an eruption of world conflict. There are many things poised on the worldwide stage of politics and economy and, how things move on a grand scale, that things could shift into a negative timeline, I would describe it, where, yes, there is a violent conflagration, like World War III. However, you don't have to personally experience that if you do not require those life lessons. This is the choose your own adventure novel of your life. If you require experiencing a physical manifestation of World War III, please turn to page 27. If you do not require World War III, then please turn to page 127. And at all times, you are actually in control of the trajectory of your consciousness, or where the needle of your awareness is on the song of your life, that you get to choose a lot about what you're experiencing. And each one of us needs to take personal responsibility, radical personal responsibility, and say, whatever you are experiencing in your life, that there is some aspect of yourself, conscious or unconscious, that has guided you to that experience. And if you're not enjoying the experience, it is now time to fully become in control of your higher faculties and to drive onto a different timeline. This is called planetary ascension. The planet right now, Earth, is saying that she does not enjoy the timelines of pain and suffering and degradation, most of which are based on the present social and economic structure that don't just cause human suffering. These are causing suffering of the entire biosphere. If you look at things like human practices such as what Fukushima and creating nuclear power has done to the Pacific Ocean, and what the BP Gulf oil spill and other fracking enterprises have done to the Gulf of Mexico. These are just two examples of human industry, profiteering, and ignorant belief systems creating an untold amount of suffering and disease in the biosphere. It's not just in the waters of two far-off places. It's affecting all of the sea life. That water is taken up in the evaporative process. It is affecting life that is inland. The radiation has spread throughout the continents. It is there. And all of that is because of humans. But of course, we know that humans aren't in control of their behavior. Humans have been invaded from a long time ago, and the genetic structure was changed. You're not your true selves. And now, more than 34 minutes into this broadcast, it's time to talk about the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, which is how to get back to your true self. So I invented the flying rainbow lasagna, and I made this shape, and you can check it out at flyingrainbowlasagna.com, or you can check out the ucy.tv homepage for this show, and it's connected to the Twitter feed. You should be able to check out tons of examples of images that I have uploaded for this purpose. The flying rainbow lasagna is a shape, and it is a composite shape, just like if you looked at a photograph that was a time-lapse exposure, long exposure of anything, like a person throwing a baseball, pitcher throwing a baseball. It looks like they have 10,000 arms, but you understand it is one arm moving through time. When you look at the flying rainbow lasagna, it might look like there are several lobes or petal shapes or curly edges, like the edge of a curly lasagna noodle. However, there is really only one, and it is moving through time and space and consciousness. So you can check out an animation of this that I created. It's on YouTube. It's called The Conception of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, because a picture's worth 1,000 words. Animation is worth a Google number of words. So the flying rainbow lasagna is the shape that is created by the oscillating movement of the singularity in a higher dimensional space context. I'll say it again. The singularity, that is that point that I've been describing, that point of convergence of timelines and consciousness, the place that everything is coming from and the destination that everything is moving towards. That presence of everything, that singularity, is by definition single. There's only one of it. There's not more than one singularity, and this is truthful. So if there's a singularity that is in every single nucleus of an atom, there is one. You have a lot of atoms in each one of your bodies, millions and millions and millions of atoms. That means that there are millions and millions and millions of doorways or connections to the singularity. Doesn't mean there are millions of singularities. You can envision a very large room that has 10 million different doorways to get into it. Doorways and skylights and trapdoors and portals and every single different way you can imagine that all enter into the same room. These individual doorways are all these singularities. There's a singularity at the center of each one of your energy centers or chakras. There's one at the center of each one of your physical cells. The nucleus of your cell, where your DNA is, has a connection to the singularity. It's your DNA. Dun, dun, dun. So now, many times I've said this, and I'm really just hammering this home. Your DNA is not just the physical expression or the thing that expresses the shape of your nose or the shape of your toes. Your DNA is a bridge of light between the world of possibilities and probabilities and the world of experienced, hard-edged objects and, experiences of your physical body. So it's not just the shape of your genetics, your eyeballs, your hair, whether you get a disease or not. It is the shape of your life. And your DNA is housed in the nucleus of your cells, and your DNA is one aspect of your connection to the source. Okay? So each one of your cells has a connection to this singularity. Each one of your atoms has a connection to the singularity. And that's the infinitely stretchy place where the fabric of space-time and consciousness has been stretched. The flying rainbow lasagna is what happens when we place that singularity in a context. And either we can move the singularity up and down very fast, or keep the singularity in one place and move the context up and down very fast. And in either of those situations, what happens is the ordinary toroidal or donut shape of your energy field becomes a flying rainbow lasagna shape. And all of a sudden, when that happens, the formerly discrete realms of the inside surface of the membrane and the outside surface of the membrane now become communicative. This is like saying your waking world and your dreaming world can now talk. This is like saying you now have continuity of consciousness across many lifetimes. There is only one photon, and it's you, and it's me. There is only one consciousness that is endlessly being emitted from the source of consciousness and returning back to the source of consciousness and endlessly embroidering the surface of time as it does so. This is how we can understand each one of us being connected to this sea of consciousness the sea of consciousness. This is like the network, the stellar network. You are not merely swimming around in your own private kiddie pool of your mind. You are actually connected to a sea of consciousness. There are many, many other beings that are also you, that you haven't, that are simply you moving at a very different rate and coming from a vastly different direction. Sorry for the background noise that is happening right now as a plane is flying overhead of my beautiful garden. It will fade in a moment. Thank you so much. So when we're looking at the flying rainbow lasagna, we are understanding that what is special about this shape and the invention and creation of this shape is that once it was invented, all sorts of new possibilities became possible or apparent because the formerly divergent sides of the membrane could now communicate and interact. And the membrane is time. The membrane is what science describes as the expanding bubble of the present moment now, as science describes the origin of, the Big Bang, everything expanding outward spontaneously from an incredibly dense singularity. Science describes that we are on the surface of the ever-expanding bubble, and everything that's inside of the bubble is the past, and science does not even formally recognize what is outside of the bubble, and the past and the future can never interact. First of all, that's not truthful. That's a program, a software program, a thought, a belief system that was inserted into your mind a long time ago, probably, when you began to develop your idea and consciousness, your concept of what time is. So when we come here as tiny infants, we don't come here with the understanding of time, like before, during, and after. We don't think about that. We are, at least for the first year or so of our lives, connected to the oceanic consciousness and the sense of now. And this coincides with, or correlates with, being connected through our crown chakra to higher dimensional, less dense states of intelligence. And as humans become more invested in their ego or their temporary narrative of who you are in this time and place, humans become cut off from their origins. And again, that was not intentional. That's not the way you were intended to live. You were intended to be an individuated expression of this divine stellar consciousness. So imagine how different that would be if this was a society of miniature stars. Everybody walking around on Earth was a miniature divine star, and they knew it. And everybody treated each other as if what you are interacting with is your own consciousness coming from a different direction, moving at a different speed. We would have a very, very different world. That's what it was like before what is known as the fall of consciousness, before your genes were degraded. The flying rainbow lasagna is the tool that I invented so that you can now rearrange your genes and reascend or format them into what they are supposed to be. And I'll tell you that, first of all, you don't need anybody's permission to reformat your genes. This is your body. This is your literal instrument that you play in the cosmic symphony. So you don't have to ask permission of your ancestors. You don't have to ask mommy or daddy's permission. You don't have to ask permission of your government. President Obama does not have to give you an official license to rearrange your genes. You don't have to ask for permission from a wise guru or from a god. You are in control of your own body. This is just like saying you get to choose what you eat or you get to choose who your sexual partners are. You get to choose. You are not a victim or a doormat in any way. Each one of us in our lives have been going through this choose your own adventure process of refinement where you get to make choices. And now with the invention of the flying rainbow lasagna, you are given an even greater amount or profound level of choice that, in the past it might have been more of a surface choice. Do you want, chocolate or vanilla ice cream? But maybe you couldn't choose to have a completely different thing other than ice cream. You now, with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, have the capacity to reprogram your genes into literally whatever you wish for them to be. This is not hyperbole. And I offer the Flying Rainbow Lasagna as open source code, or an open source approach to rearranging your DNA. So again, if I were a cutthroat, malevolent being who is intent on controlling other people's behavior and empowering myself at the expense of others, I would say, I want to be the only Flying Rainbow Lasagna. I'm going to rearrange my genes and live in peace and happiness and, mental comfort, and just screw everyone else. You can all be slaves. And how about this? If you want to be a Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you have to pay me billions and billions of dollars, and I'll, give you lasagna magical elixir that will transform you. But clearly I'm not doing that. Ha ha ha, right? We laugh, we drop our opera glasses. No, I'm clearly not doing that. What I am doing is offering the Flying Rainbow Lasagna as literal open source code. And in the world of software programming, that means that it's an idea that is shared freely without a proprietary, you don't have to pay for it. However, you do give credit to the person that invented it, and you also invite the community of users to collaborate on these projects. So it would be like saying, Aurora invented the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. We learned it from Aurora, and we take it now and, you apply it to our own genetic code. And we also collaborate with Aurora on future projects that involve the use of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna oscillation. So it's like saying, we are all individual musicians. We are all now using the Flying Rainbow Lasagna in order to retune our instruments, and we're playing a new song. And it is a better song than what has been played up until this point, because what's been going on for about the past 15,000 years has been harming the planet. The planet is not happy. The planet is suffering. Gaia is a real person. Imagine a real person that is suffering from, cancer or heart disease. It's a real malady, a disease that is happening on the planet right now. And the disease is consciousness-based. It has to do with having consciousness invaders that came here and transformed the human genome against the will of the planet. That we are supposed to be containers for consciousness that are connected to the source, connected to the stars, and expressing that stellar consciousness here on Earth. I call this show Birth of a New Dimension. I speak all about how we need to, be prepared to meet well with beings that come from a very different place. And really, the ones that use technology are beings that are not very evolved and are operating at a very low level of consciousness. And the beings that do not require any kind of clank metal technology, they use only, or we use only, structures that are consciousness-based, energy-based structures, like the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. This is my contribution to this realm of pure consciousness and awareness. So it's a realm that is made of waveforms. It's made of timelines, possibilities, and probabilities. So humanity has been participating in that realm for what is called human history the past 15,000 years, but has been participating not in a conscious way and in a way that is very uncomfortable. This is the victimhood that many people have felt. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is like getting a magical paintbrush or a pencil with an eraser, because you can now erase the aspects of your genetic code that you do not wish to experience and write in what you do wish to experience. So let's say, in a subtle way, society has programmed you to expect whatever are the maladies and diseases of your mommy and daddy and previous generations shall be your very own maladies and diseases. When you give your medical history, you go to the doctor says, hey, did your mommy or daddy have cancer? Did your mommy or daddy have heart disease? Any history of mental illness in your family? Any of those things. These are subtle ways of associating you with the genes of the people that you came from. But I just told you, you don't have to ask for anybody's permission to rearrange your genes. You don't have to ask for mommy and daddy's permission to have a different genetic structure. And it's pretty deep, because let's say that there's many different things, like the idea, if you were a Jewish person, of carrying all of the collected suffering that has happened to your ancestors, to your ancestry over many generations. And many people think that if they let go of that suffering, they are somehow dishonoring their ancestors. This is true of any tribe or group that has been harmed or victimized. Native Americans, people who came from Africa, black people, anybody that has been oppressed in any way. And when we look at it, almost every group has been oppressed at some time in their ancestry. You are the present player of the symphony. You know, other people were here at other times. You're playing the instrument that you have right now. You can choose the notes that you play. You don't have to keep playing the notes that say, something terrible happened to me and I have to keep remembering it. I expect bad things to continue to happen. You don't have to play those notes. Just like you don't have to play the notes that say, mommy or daddy had cancer, therefore you will have cancer, therefore your child will have cancer. Just because your ancestors were oppressed does not mean you have to be oppressed. Just because mommy or daddy had a disease does not mean you have to have a disease. When you start to change on this profound level, be prepared that your family might feel like you are rejecting them, because they might feel a literal distancing as you retune your own genetic structure. Let's say your family has a history of alcoholism and abuse and enabling that behavior. Then as you become healthy, as you change your genetic structure, then you begin to vibrate at a different rate, and your family might feel like, wow, so-and-so never comes over for our, binge drinking and poker and fighting tournaments anymore. I wonder why not. And it's because you literally are playing a different song with your genes. And if you stop going down the feelings of self-pity, like blah, blah happens to me because I'm oppressed like my ancestors were oppressed. If you stop going down those pathways of belief system and expectation, then you also might find that you are no longer associating with or on the same timelines with the people that you used to who were playing that song, that they might even feel that you are turning away from victimhood and turning towards empowerment. This is what the pencil with the eraser does. It means that you get to rewrite who you are. It can even be done about events within your own life. If you have been a person who was raped or abused or had any kind of traumatic event happen to you, that doesn't have to be the defining thing that defines the narrative structure of your personality for the rest of your existence. You can be free. You can use the pencil with the eraser to erase the emotional detritus or the residue of what you experienced and rewrite it. It doesn't mean you forget or deny what happened. It means you get to be free. So the primary trauma in our society right now is the invasion of consciousness that happened on our planet about 15,000 years ago. However, it's not just our planet. The invasion of consciousness also happened on planet Marduk or Marduk, which is now the asteroid belt, because that planet was destroyed. It also happened on planet Mars, which now does not have a magnetosphere. It was killed. It happened on planet Venus, which also does not presently have a magnetosphere. That planet was killed. So now you start to see what's going on with Earth. This is like the most present example of a pattern that's been going on for a long time. And we can use this moment now to change the pattern. It doesn't have to be like, oh, well, the planet was destroyed 3 times in a row, so it's going to happen again. This can be like, wow, this is the time that it actually doesn't happen. And instead, we ascend. And the ascension process, this is not a literalist, biblical, Christian rapture idea, and this is also not a New Age harvesting of your consciousness where you're going to be uploaded into some giant mainframe, quote-unquote, heavenly realm. No. I laugh at that. No, ascension literally means you are aligning your consciousness with that path of least likelihood, the wormhole that you can use to exit this level of reality, and you are transforming your physical structure into a new form of matter. That's what birth of a new dimension is. The new dimension is made out of matter that is now imbued with consciousness and energy. No longer do we have 2 separate realms. The realm of spirituality, / emotion/energy and the realm of the physical world. We now have one realm that is seamlessly integrated, where your mind and your emotions and your passion affect the molecules of reality. And then the molecules of reality, of course, feed back into your non-physical realm of feelings and desires and passions and dreams. This is just like your waking mind and your sleeping mind, or the transfer of consciousness between various different lives. This is the integration, the harmonic integration of consciousness across many different levels. And what makes it possible is the shape called the flying rainbow lasagna. And I keep bringing that up because before this tool was invented, yes, humans and what was going on Earth was very limited. I invented this tool in 2001. Everything changed and shifted after that. Now you as an individual and the planet have many more opportunities available than would have been available otherwise. So this is the end of this broadcast. Please continue to join me as we are literally giving birth to a new dimension. Thank you so much.